Well, awesome. Everybody's filing in here. We're just about at 10 o'clock. Welcome, everybody, to our bi-weekly webinar. I'm co-host Ryan Poole. For people that don't know me, I'm a real estate agent just like yourselves. Been doing this over 20 years. And I'm also the founder of RealTrade, which is an online marketplace, social media platform for real estate. Uh, I tell everybody kind of think Zillow meets LinkedIn only for real estate, but totally different business model. Okay. We don't
Home with a double dip.
Yeah, home with a double dip. We don't sell leads off your own listing. So when you create a profile, we pull in your listings for you. Buyers and sellers can contact you directly. And of course, you have this whole social component where people can get connected. So I implore you to check that out. You can go to realtrade.io or just Google RealTrade. And it's my pleasure here to introduce Jim here, my co-host, the quintessential entrepreneur. Not only is he a real estate attorney, okay, he actually owns his own law business, James Brown Law, his own title company, New Path Title, and of course the awesome closing software Title Leap. Jim, it's pretty exciting. You've shepherded us through these big changes in the condo market, obviously with all the laws, with the Senate Bill 4D. We did those over a year ago. And now everything's kind of coming here to a head here now with the new changes in the condo laws. And a lot of big shakeups in the industry. I'm really lucky to have you here shepherd us through these changes, Jim. And go ahead, take
No, I
it.
appreciate that. It means a lot to me to get the opportunity to do this for you guys at this stage in my career. If there's anything I could be doing with my time, it would be exactly right here with exactly this group, talking about exactly the topics we're talking about. I consider it an honor and a privilege. I'm
Yeah.
trying to find my script. Real estate. Oh, I can wing it.
Hmm.
So last week we went over part one of the House Bill 913 condo rule law and form changes this week. So what we did last week was if anybody wants to see it, it's on our website. You can go to the very top and you can look for the content. We went over the form itself specifically. This week, I want to do a outline of the changes as a quick reference guide for you guys, and then I provided a checklist so you know exactly how to manage this thing a little bit better and a little bit more efficiently without having to memorize the form and go back and forth. Having said that, I would like it if you do read the new form a few times and forget about all the stuff from the old form. I keep getting calls from agents and texts from agents asking me about how to handle something relative to the old form. And what I would say is forget about the old form.
Yep.
This changes too much. You can't think about it like old form and new form. And I found myself as I was writing the outline thinking about the old form, and you just have to look at the new form and the new rules and think about how you can do business most efficiently in the new paradigm. Um, is there anything you wanted to add, Ryan, before we get
I
started?
wonder how many
Okay.
people here, like, I mean, how many people here use form simplicity, for their contracts? I know
Good
they just
question.
service through the MLS. It's nice because they do update, the forms as they go. I wish they would notify you or something that like the forms are updated, like when you sign in or something, because all of a sudden it just appears there and it's updated. But I know a lot of people use that, and of course there's, the software you use, Jim, as well, too, as well.
We have a section in I use altastar.com because
AltaStar.
I'm not a real
Yeah.
estate agent. I want to mention something. Australia's live, Allison's live. It's really nice when I can see your feedback. Australia raises her hand. That helps out a ton when Ryan asks or I ask questions. If you guys can go live and we can see it, great. If not, totally understand it. Altastar is the software I use. And so what Altastar does is they have a section on their landing page where it shows the new form updates and the dates that they were done. So if you use whatever forms library you use, they typically have a section you can go to. I'm not familiar with form simplicity, but where you can see dates and form updates and when they
Yeah.
occur.
Well, there's app files too. I have used app files, Wendy, and she said the broker has to update those forms. So if you are using app files, obviously I would make sure that the broker has updated the newest forms, especially with the condo ones. I mean these.
I'm going to show you the link to make sure you're using the new forms.
Okay, good.
Um, And at the end of the show, we're going to give you some time-saving tools and ways to streamline the process and all the good stuff and make your life easier. Crossing for cystic fibrosis was insanely successful. And what else do we have for PSA? It's summer. Yay.
I know, I know. It's going
All
quick.
right.
It's going.
Without further ado, I'm going to try to keep this short for you guys, short and intense. And my goal is, as always, to give you content and perspectives and information you won't find anyplace else. I know you can tune in to 4 million channels now on the web to get your real estate information. I want to do something unique that keeps you guys coming back and keeps you cutting edge and makes you more efficient. All right, condo law changes and checklist. Again, today is July 15th, 2025. 3 weeks ago, DeSantis signed into law House Bill 913, which went into effect July 1. I've heard lots of discussion about when this stuff went into effect, July 1. Now, there's some couple exceptions to that date. These laws were aimed at helping the condo crisis. I think it's a good start. I think the condo mess will settle down and prices will ultimately stabilize. And yes, the condo rider changed again. And yes, I have a new checklist to help you guys move through it quickly. And once again, reminded of the old man in the law library when I was in law school he said to me, going into real estate is a great idea. There are no deadlines and you set your own schedule and the law never changes. That has been anything but my experience. And I've mentioned that old man before, and I'm going to mention him again. This law, these rules, this groundwork, everything we're involved with, it's just changing. You have to stay up on it. Don't forget when you're talking. Oh, and you can always text me 24/7. I'm happy to take anything you guys need to be filled in on. And it just provides me fertile ground to explain stuff to you guys. So text me and you can get to me at newpathtitle.com. Click on 24/7 attorney support. Don't forget to explain the infected and the non-infected condos and how they affect the algorithm when they're explaining to your clients and they're looking at the platforms for the pricing.
Yep.
There's so much wacky stuff going on in condo pricing with regard to investors paying 3 times market, 2 and 3 times market value for these outdated buildings, which should be worth nothing. And then buildings that are in great shape with really strong SIRS and really strong milestone reports being drugged down in value by the building next door that has terrible milestone and terrible SIRS burdens. So you have to explain all that to your clients because all they know is they go to the Zestimate and they say, well, this is what I think I should get, or this is what I think I should pay. You really have to take the time to drill past that. You
Yep.
have to take the time to look at the SIRS report. Don't forget, a SIRS report can't exist without milestones. Milestones are where they establish what has to be fixed. SIRS is where they attach $ budgets. Ooh, I just noticed I get dirt all over. I've been on a job site lately. That's roofing tar. SIRS is where they establish the dollar values for the things that have to get fixed.
Yep.
There are
I do,
some.
I do want to add, Jim, too. We did a whole great webinar on how to read SIRS reports, guys. We did a really good one, and you can look it under New Path Title. You can go onto our YouTube as well, or onto RealTrade and find it there as well. But it really, to learn to read those reports, those SIRS reports,
So
and
critical.
so critical to be educated, for your clients. You look
And
like a
and
hero.
and in the SIRS report, good point, Ryan. And in the SIRS report, I'm going to give you the shortcut, the hack to reading the SIRS report. They're daunting, right? It could be 70 pages. I saw a SIRS report that was over 200 pages.
But I had 210, Jim.
210
210.
pages.
Yep.
There's an executive summary that's usually less than a page. You can go to the executive summary and you can get a pretty good overview of what's going on. And then you can go into other sections of the SIRS if you want to expand on it to your clients. But if you're just looking at a building and you don't work in that building much, you get the SIRS, you look at the executive summary, you're going to be 90% in the game.
Yep. I say read the executive summary too, and then I upload the whole PDF into AI, into Gemini. as well too, and chat with it as well. But as we know, AI,
No,
you got to
no,
be
no, no, no.
careful with it. But it does highlight some stuff that I,
That's
read.
brilliant, Ryan.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So
I'm terrible at email. If you guys email me something, please just send me a text and let me know you've emailed me something. I apologize. I just get too many. I can't keep up. If you like the way we work, throw us in paragraph 20. The closing agent is newpathtitle.com. You can leave the seller paying for title and have the buyer choose, and then we can work together. And I'm happy to be up to speed on your files and close for you guys and make you look like rock stars. I was trying to find an interesting story this morning on the lore behind why some counties have seller paying for title and some counties have buyer paying for title. Nobody knows why. It just evolved that way. So anybody tells you that's the law, that's the rule. We just had a big knockdown drag out with the title agent, with a real estate agent about this, and the buyer and the seller, and it's not a law, it's not a rule, it's just a custom. All right. House Bill 913, high points that affect agents. I tried to go through the law and pick out just the most critical things that agents want to know. I put the most important stuff at the top of the outline, the least important stuff to agents at the bottom of the outline, and here's what I came up with. Extended SIRS deadline. The deadline to complete structural integrity reserve studies is extended from December 31st, 2024 to December 31st, 2025. This came up last show for part one. Milestone inspections were not extended.
yep.
The milestone inspection deadline is still what it was.
Yep.
But the deadline to come up with the budget to meet the inspection report requirements was extended. The next biggie for agents, 7-day inspection of all documents, does not include weekends and holidays. It's in the form
Yep.
to remind you. And then I gave you a link to the federal holidays list. I get texts frequently from agents. Is this a holiday? Is that a holiday? Does this extend? Does that extend? There's the list right there.
I want to let everybody know too. Everybody that's attendees is going to get emailed the recording and the outline. I did post the outline in the chat too as well, so you have it there.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
Website requirements starting January 1st, 2025. Any condominium association with more than 100 units must maintain a website or mobile app where essential documents are accessible to residents. By January 1st, 2026, this requirement expands to 25 or more units. Many condominiums are already complying. And we all know the vast majority of buildings are bigger than 25. So for next year, unfortunately not this year, by law, our job's going to get a lot easier. Why couldn't they have made these laws sooner? It's like the internet wasn't on the planet recently enough. Unbelievable. Anyways, but it does get better. The law does actually make our job easier. The form got better, and the law has been in favor of our jobs. All right. So what will appear on those websites? Mandatory documents online. Associations must post a comprehensive list of the following documents: governing documents, declaration of condominium bylaws, rules, and regulations. Where does that sound familiar? Meeting minutes and video recordings of all board and member meetings from the past 12 months posted within 30 days of being finalized or received. Oh my God, why couldn't we have had this law before? Financial records, including current and proposed budgets, year-end financial reports, and monthly income expenses, statements reviewed at meetings. Wow. What does this sound like they are catering to, you guys? I wish you all had your cameras on so I could see your smiles. This is great for us.
Yeah. Yep.
Active contracts and agreements affecting the association, not so big. Board member and property manager contact information. Access control. The websites must have a password protected area, accessible only to unit owners and employees. Only to unit owners and employees. Upon written request, the association must provide access credentials to any unit owner. Now, I'm not suggesting you do this, but maybe the unit owner shares their credentials with you, bada boom, bada bing. Pause in reserve contributions. So the next big thing to agents in the law is the pause in reserve contributions. Associations may pause reserve fund contributions for up to 2 consecutive budget years if they have recently completed a milestone inspection and prioritizing critical repairs. Do I expect that you're going to remember this rule? Absolutely not. However, if you are sitting with a buyer or you're sitting with a seller and you drop a little statement like this, how intelligent do you look when you tell them, oh, I think there was a pause in the contribution requirements if they're tackling major assessments, prioritizing major assessments, and you do a little research, or you're at a listing appointment and you say stuff like this, you're just going to stick out of the crowd of listing agents that they're interviewing, period, end of story. It just is a value proposition that a seller is not going to ignore. Next, most important in the law affecting agents, official records and transparency, associations must now maintain bank statements, ledgers, video recordings, video conference meetings, and affidavits as of official records, approved board meetings, that'll all be on there. This is probably more important than the official records transparency, so I should change the location of this. Thank you for your indulgence. Higher replacement cost threshold. So the minimum deferred maintenance or replacement cost threshold for sewers raised from 10,000 to 25,000. So now if it's under $25,000 for the replacement cost, they don't have to make it a mandatory sewers item. Alternative, does everybody know what that means? If anybody doesn't know it, I'll explain it. So that just means that under the old law, if it costs more than $10,000, they had to mandatorily budget for it. After July 1st, if it costs now more than $25,000, they raise the limit. So if it's $24,000, they don't have to have it in the SERS budget. If you look at some of these reports like Ryan was talking about, when they had the lower threshold, it was because they had so many items they had to include. Now that they've raised the threshold a little bit, everything in construction in a building costs over 10 grand. You're going to see a lot less line items in the SERS. All right. And this is a biggie too. This should be more important than official records transparency. Alternative funding options. There was a big discussion about whether associations could get lines of credit or loans. Under the new statute, associations can absolutely get loans and lines of credit to fund special assessments. That's another, when you're sitting with your buyers or your sellers, a value proposition nugget that you can drop is that they can do this. And so when the discussions are had about how to meet assessment requirements, loans are a viable option under the new law. Anybody has any questions along the way?
Let me ask you a question. Let's say they do get a loan for a special assessment. Let's say it's a big one, like $80,000, and I don't know. Let's say the unit owner doesn't make the loan payment. Can that lender then foreclose on the condo?
No, so the association is
Okay.
the borrower, not the
Okay.
unit owner.
So it's
And
just the
so then the
associate.
association would take action against the unit owner.
And what would they do?
Same thing as any other default.
Yeah.
Send you a letter and eventually foreclose.
Okay.
And they do, and so if the association funds the assessment, the SERS necessity with a loan, then they would assess you for the loan payments.
Okay.
Inspection scope clarified. Mandatory milestone inspections may now apply to buildings with 3 or more habitable stories, not just 3 stories, and include 4 family unit dwellings. This will exempt 3-story buildings with ground floor parking. So there was a whole bunch of buildings
Yep.
that were 3 stories and had the first floor parking, or even a couple, or I saw some buildings that had uh, first 2 stories of parking. And there was a ton of wasted energy over whether they were SIRS required or not. Under the new law, they are not. Pooled reserve accounts. These are less important to agents. You can pool reserve accounts for different for different SIRS line items. Online registration requirement. All condominiums and cooperative associations must create and maintain an online account with state division. That's for reporting. Less important to agents, but it does make associations more accountable. Community association manager, CAMs that have been license stripped can't reapply for 10 years. Again, less important to agents. And electronic voting. This can be important. You can vote electronically if 25% of the members vote, if 25% of the voting population elects for electronic voting. Why is that important? Because a lot of people get shut out and they have to vote with a proxy. And so now with electronic voting, there will be less proxy voting, and people are lazy and they tend to just vote with their proxy instead of reading the issues, or not reading the issues, but voting actively. All right, main topic. The new condo rider form has this in the footer. You're going to identify it because it says in the footer, 6/2025, Florida Realtors, Florida Bar. There's a couple of new forms. There's a crisp form and there's another form that's floating around. This is the one that you want to use, 06/2025, Florida Realtors and Florida Bar. You'll know it's the form instantly if you've ever seen it before, because the first paragraph is so radically different. And when you see it, your heart's just going to swell, because right there in the very first paragraph, you have association and management contact information.
Yep.
3 cheers for the team. We have legislature that's finally listening to what we need, and they're taking action. And we have a Florida Association of Realtors and Florida Bar that's taking action. And I can't tell you guys how many years I sat on the Florida contracts, the bar. I was a bar representative for the contracts drafting committee, and they asked me to leave. They asked me to leave because I said, you guys, why do we waste so much language making these simple statements? And they said, you don't have to come back. And so they shut me down. But now it's nice to see I'm not there, but this stuff is finally happening. Most significant changes to the form. We're just going to talk about the most significant changes. We went through the entire form line by line last session. In part 1, this session, I just want to go through the most significant changes that everybody should be aware of. Paragraph 3, fees and assessments, prorations, and litigation. They dramatically simplified this. It's now a bunch of check boxes, and they've simplified the statements regarding, we'll go through it. Fees and assessments, prorations, and litigation. Condominium association assessments and rents. Seller represents that the current condominium association regular periodic assessments are as follows. And they gave you a couple, and they give you the period of payments. All regular periodic assessments levied by the condominium association and rent on recreational areas, if any, shall be made current by seller at closing. That was a frequent conversation topic. Association assessments, assets, and liabilities, including association reserve accounts, shall not be prorated. I can't say as I ever saw that last part of the sentence. Fines. Clarifies our old form and a frequent source of frustration for everybody. Seller shall at closing pay all fines imposed against the property by the condominium association as of the closing date, and remedy all open violations of rule and regulations noticed to the seller in the condominium association official records. A lot of this stuff came up in homeowners associations. I'm holding my breath waiting for that form to change, but now it's finally in the condominium document. Special assessments section has been dramatically clarified. Again, we did a deep dive on this, but I'll read through it real quick. If the condominium association has levied any special or additional assessments as of the effective date, additional is going to be a reference to the paragraph above it. As of the effective date, everybody knows what levied means. Levied is it was presented for vote. It was voted on and ratified. That's levied. Levied doesn't mean it appeared in the agenda. Levied doesn't mean it was talked about. Levied means it was voted and approved. So if it was approved and before the effective date, which is the date everybody signed, look at what they did, capital E, capital D. I don't want to preach, but I've mentioned this a million times, defined terms. That is a specific date. And so if it's levied prior to that date, then they gave you an exact way to manage it, seller or buyer. If the condominium association levies any special or additional assessments after the effective date and prior to the closing date, then check 1. Beautiful, easy. Notwithstanding the provisions of 1 or 2 above, if any special or additional assessments may be paid in installments, and the condominium association will allow buyer to assume installments. Another critical point of friction. And they will allow the buyer to assume them scheduled to be paid after closing, then seller shall prior or at closing pay all installments which are payable on or before closing. And check 1, buyer or seller shall pay all installments payable after the closing date. All contingent on the association allowing the payments to be made after closing. Some associations will not allow it, and that was a frequent friction point. Now it's all clarified in the form. Oh, here it is in bold. If seller is checked, or if the condominium association does not allow a buyer to assume the installment scheduled to be paid after closing, seller shall pay all the payments. Any special or additional assessment shall be deemed levied for the purpose of this paragraph on the date when such assessment has been approved as required for enforcement pursuant to Florida law and the condominium documents as listed in paragraph 5. Seller is aware of the following special or additional assessments that have been levied by the condominium association or discussed as a board meeting in the 12 months prior to the effective date. Remember what the law requires. The new law is going to require for them to post all that stuff on their website, further streamlining your job. Unfortunately, they didn't define what levied means, so that may still be a source of discussion between agents. Levied means presented in the agenda and voted on. Litigation, seller represents that seller is not aware of any pending or anticipated litigation affecting the property or the common elements. The next big change, we did this all last week in detail, but I'm going to gloss over. I'm going to go over the biggest changes to the form. I don't know why they titled this non-developer disclosure, but you've got these 2 check boxes, A and B. A says that they have received the current copy of the 5 things that agents have to provide, the bylaws and the rules and the most recent annual financial statements and the budget and the FAQs and the governance form. And the box B is this agreement is voidable for 7 days after they receive it. So they've either received it or you check B box that they haven't received it and they can get out within 7 days once they've received it. And remember that the items stipulated in these sections cannot be voided by agreement.
Yep.
So just because the buyer says they don't need it doesn't mean the seller doesn't have to deliver it.
Yep.
So
I do want to say, I want to say this, and it's going to be, and I keep bringing it up, but these frequently asked questions, like I was just with a seasoned agent that never thought she had to provide the frequently asked questions. And I pointed her to the condo writer, for it. And she's like, in my 20-year career, I never had to get those. And I said, well, it's part of the, the contract. And here's the thing. A lot of condos don't have the frequently asked questions. They don't,
And so how do you handle
don't.
that, Ryan? What do you do when they don't have it?
I mean, I let the buyer know that they don't have the frequently asked questions, that they're not providing them,
Yeah.
that they don't have them. The condo just doesn't have them,
The agents text me a lot and they say they're so frustrated and this and that. And I say, here's what you do. You just be the conduit of information. You tell the parties that it doesn't exist.
Yep.
That's it. How do you
And then
want
he
to
says, yeah,
proceed?
get it in writing from the association that they don't have them, that
Yeah.
they don't have the frequently asked questions.
Yep. And then if you want to, you can take a form FAQ and they say, well, what do they even look like? Because that's the big mystery if they don't have it. But the questions are all the same from condo to condo. The answers vary. So you show them what the questions are. And the questions are really pretty benign and you can figure them out anyways. But it's the FAQ form that they don't maintain.
Yep. Just to let you know, if the buyer wants out and he's got a good real estate attorney, that's the out.
Well, that's the thing, right?
I mean,
So in the statute, it says that the buyer's acknowledgement that they don't need this stuff doesn't vacate the seller's duty to deliver it.
yep.
So then you have this deal, you're moving along and everybody's happy. And this is a real life story. And they're getting a closing. And the day before the closing, the husband and the wife buyer wake up and they have a massive fight. And the husband takes the contract to a real estate attorney. And the real estate attorney gets him out because the seller never delivered the docs and they're not waivable. Ryan, could you entertain these guys just for a split second? I'm sorry, I have somebody on a job site texting me something that they need
Yeah,
immediately. They're in a garage. Give me 2 seconds.
no problem. As we can see, Jim's a busy guy with his own real estate issues right now and close. I was going to ask a question. How many here are doing condo sales right now? Maybe you can just put a thing in the chat. I've actually put 3 condos under contract within the last month or so. Ironically, all 3 of them are under contract less than the sellers paid for them 2 to 3 years ago. So I haven't done any. Actually, all the ones that I have were under contract before July 1st, so I have not used the new condo rider yet. Has anybody used the new condo rider yet and had any issues with it?
Ooh, I'd love to see a show of hands.
Yeah, has anyone actually used the new one and had any problems? Okay, looks like Valerie's had some.
I'm sorry, you guys, for the digression. That was somebody on a job site making delivery, and I knew they were going to have a problem. So,
All right.
buyer's request for, if you want to talk about the problems after the show, I'd be happy to talk about the problems, or if you think everybody could benefit from breaking down the problem for everybody, I'd be happy to go over it now.
Yeah.
Buyer's request for documents. So here's what's odd. So you have this paragraph and it says that they either received it or they didn't receive it. And then you have this other paragraph that says buyer's request for documents. And so seller shall at seller's expense provide to buyer with current copies of the condominium documents specified in paragraph 5 above, as well as the governance form. We've talked about that in section 7. Don't ask me why they didn't just add the governance form to paragraph 5, but they didn't. If this contract does not close, buyer shall immediately return the stuff. Seller shall, at seller's expense, provide buyer with a current copy of the following. As an agent, I can't imagine that you're going to say to your client, if the stuff's on a piece of paper, I'm not sure why they made this an election. Are you going to advise your client not to get it? Your client would look at you and say, well, why don't you want me to have that? I would imagine.
I mean, just the
So,
fact that it's there, the buyers are going to want to see it. There's just no way
yeah.
that they're not. Yeah.
And here's something I want to draw your attention to. And this was, I've been working in real estate 40 years, practicing law solo for 20. I did not realize this. And I want to emphasize this because this is a safe zone. Australia pointed out something to me in the contract last week that I didn't realize. I looked at this form and I picked up on some stuff I didn't realize. There are 4 different things in the meeting and the agendas. There's board meetings, minutes, and board agendas, and there's member meeting minutes and member agendas.
Yep.
It just didn't even dawn on me. I always thought that there were just agendas and minutes, but there's actually 4 separate ones. Wendy, what's up?
You're on mute, Whitney. You're on mute.
I just wanted to clarify for my own knowledge. So the top section, the buyer can void the contract if we don't have all 5 of those things.
Yep.
But number 6, if the buyer requests those and we don't have them, are they still able to void the contract?
So these are the stuff that's mandatory, required by statute, that can't be voided by the seller saying, I don't need it. These are the things that are elective that you're gonna dig up as a seller's agent for the buyer's agent, that the buyer's agent's saying, I want them. If they aren't available or you can't get them, there is some overlap in this stuff.
It
No,
says
there's
right there
no.
below it, this agreement can be terminated in 7 days after the buyer receives all documents requested in this subparagraph.
In this
Yeah.
subparagraph. Yeah.
But it doesn't say that, well, it says if they get them, but it doesn't say if they don't get them. Because I just took a new listing where we asked the association, because the seller is 90, she has no idea about the minutes, and the association said the seller should have all this information. So I have that in writing, which is great, but the seller doesn't have this. So
Right.
now it's like, okay, I have everything in the paragraph above. So is the seller protected as much as she could be?
Well, she's protected to the extent that if the buyer wants, she's not protected because if the buyer wants to get out and the buyer wants the docs and she can't provide them, the buyer could theoretically cancel.
Up to closing?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to
Well,
make,
it's this agreement may be terminated by a buyer by delivering a written notice of buyer's intention to cancel within 7 days, excluding Saturdays and Sundays and legal holidays after the date buyer receives all the documents requested in the subparagraph. So let's just say you delivered everything
I know.
except for the minutes of the condominium association member meetings for the 12 months prior. You delivered all 9 things, I think it is, except for that one item. And so theoretically, until you've delivered it, they can cancel within 7 days, 7 days after receipt, but you never delivered it, so they could cancel. I would argue they can cancel.
thank you.
You're welcome. Shane?
So my question is actually similar to Wendy's. I'm dealing with an association where my client is 97. They've moved out. They're into an assisted living, don't have email, don't have phone. And I have asked the association for all of these things and all of the questions we need answered, right? So I supplied them with a list of the documents we need, a list of the questions I need answered. And they're basically telling me they can only provide it to the owner, which he has no way of requesting it. And that if I want my questions answered, I have to ask for a condo questionnaire. Now, the condo questionnaire does not get requested until we have a lender or a contract. So our timeline for needing all of this is very different, and the management company is pushing back.
Right.
So how, like, I guess my main question is, when are the management companies and the HOAs going to get on board? I'm trying to explain that I won't even list this condo until I have all of this. Because once we go to contract, if I only have 3 days or 5 days to provide it, we all know a condo association, I've been fighting with them for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So at
Well,
what
there's-
point, or how do I get the condo association or the management company? I mean, I'm dealing with a big management company that's pushing back.
So there's 3 answers. The first answer is there's a governance form. The governance form has specific time frames, but that doesn't mean just because we went over the governance form again,
It's a state mandated form that they have to
that
provide in a certain time frame.
that you can point out the rule in the governance form and say, hey, pursuant to rule, I think it's 3 in the governance form, and you send them a copy. You guys are obligated to give this to me. And I give you the link for the governance form later on in this outline. We can go through it together. The other
Okay.
thing you do is that you don't have the ability to do is you get the seller involved, right? Because who's it hurting? It's hurting the seller. Unfortunately, your seller is not capable, and then the last thing is get an attorney involved. But those are the best answers. It's refer to the governance form, but some of these but many of these smaller associations, they just don't care.
I know. And they got horrible, like that management. I'm dealing with Castle Management right now. They're just so horrible. Like I can't get anything from them. It's nuts.
It's Seacrest that I'm having an issue with. And in
Yeah.
the past, James, in the past, you had you had shown us a letter that the owner could sign saying basically I've requested these documents and you have 5.
Yeah, I've got a checklist that I'm going to give you later on in the show. You can copy and paste it. But the governance form is I think your screen froze, but
Have
the
my
governance.
older gentleman sign it. And I had to put that in yesterday, and I'll see what happens, but I haven't heard anything back yet.
Your screen momentarily froze. We can pick it up at the end of the show again. We can talk about it some more, but yeah, you're on the right track. That's all you can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talked about this agreement. Okay, so then they left you some blanks so the buyer could come up with something, who knows what. And you would have to be required, the seller, so if they got really creative, the buyer could write something in the blank, and if they don't receive it within 7 days, or actually within 7 days of them receiving it, they could cancel. So we'll have an ongoing dialogue about the creative things I see agents writing in those 3 blank forms, but so far I haven't seen anything. I think Christian and Tajay are on the show. If you guys have seen anything creative in there, don't hesitate to chime in. I don't know what the thought was. What was the thought behind
the
that?
firstborn sellers, the seller's firstborn children. I mean, who knows?
I see Fed laughing. I'm glad somebody's amused.
Yeah.
Research these before you sit down with your seller and make an offer. I think this is what you're alluding to, Shane, a little checklist. Investor owned or occupied ratio. Lenders may vary, but 70% owner occupancy seems to be the most lenders want to see. So this is the checklist that you sit down and you check off to become familiar with the building before you take the listing or before you meet on the listing appointment. Investor owner occupied unit ratios. Partner up with a good lender, figure this out ahead of time. Your lender is key to your success. Of all the things we see killing deals, we did a show a few months ago. I said a few months ago, wow, how time flies. January, we had 50% of our deals canceled in January. They did not close during the month. I think it was January. And the single biggest reason was lender failures. I personally, I hope she's not on this podcast, just had a closing failure, and it was a lender-related issue. I want to remind you guys as tactfully and gently as I can, in your contract, in the relatively new form, the last iteration from the last 2 years, all the agents are authorized to contact the lender directly. Any seller's agent who gets within days of closing and says, I had no idea this was coming down the pike, I can tell you as a seller, I looked at my agent and first thing I said is, why don't you know this? You have the authority to be pinging your lender multiple times as frequently as you want through the transaction. Are we on schedule? Do you need anything? Is this thing going to close? The one that I had personally was the day before closing, they said, oh, we have dual underwriting and there's going to be this second underwriting review or something, and we got to delay the closing. As a seller, I was disappointed to hear that at the last minute. And there's no excuse for that happening. And I don't want to sound harsh, but anybody who's on the buy side or the sell side should know exactly what's going on in the mind of the lender. Now, if the lender is not responding, that's another thing, but you should definitely be asking. And then if you have a boomerang at the very last minute, you can say, hey, I've been asking the lender for this every minute of the day, and it's just going to make you shine. All right, I won't harp on that. I don't want to sound harsh, you guys. I'm just trying to give you the benefit of the stuff I learned along the way. Is there insurance? Yes, in this day and age, some condos do not even have current policies and therefore are not lendable. I've recently seen some 25+ unit buildings uninsured. Do they have current financials? So this is the pre-list. This is the listing list that you're gonna gloss over, that you're gonna drill down on, not gloss over. You're gonna drill down on early on. Do you have current financials? Same answer as insurance. Typically, these are smaller buildings. We can throw in there, what was the one you were wrestling with, Shane? Agendas and meeting minutes that they didn't have. Milestone and SIRS, are they needed? Are they done? We know the answer on SIRS now, but there are many buildings that did the SIRS ahead of time. So how much more, not valuable, but how much more, I guess it's valuable, does your building look if they've done their SIRS? So if you have a buyer that's looking at 2 buildings and one hasn't done their SIRS and one has, you can use that as your value proposition statement. This is a much more attractive building and they've done their SIRS, they're ahead of the ball, they know exactly what you're going to be looking at for expenses over the next million years, typically 30. And so you can use that as a selling point.
I think last show too, it was like, what percentage of condos have done the SIRS that were mandated? Obviously, now they changed it, they pushed it back, but it was like, it was like,
No, it was terrible, Ryan.
it was,
It's milestones were like, but there's still tons of buildings that are deficient on milestones.
yeah,
SIRS was way behind milestones.
I know.
Yeah. My special assessments, are they levied or are there any pending? And then renting after purchase, this comes up. It's nothing to do with the condo rider, but it's always important to know if your buyer is an investor and there is a 1-year rental restriction, you might want to be surprised how many do. This is best to know up front. So I said investor. I had one the other day. We had a transaction the other day where the buyer bought and then mom got sick. The buyer wanted to head out of town and rent the unit while they were going to relocate near mom. And they discovered they couldn't rent the unit because there was a rental restriction and they were furious. They didn't know. Was it their responsibility to figure it out? Yes. But had you asked the question, had the agent asked the question, it would have saved a lot of friction between the agent and now the owner who wanted to rent and had no idea they couldn't. Post-listing offer condo checklist. So once you're listed or making an actual offer, here's what you want to send the association or selling agent and provide to your client. This roughly correlates to the order on the new condo rider. Please provide answers and documents and values for the following. Does the association have the first right of refusal? Do the unit owners have the first right of refusal? What are the regular assessments? How often are they paid? Are there any special assessments? If so, how many and when are they due? Are the board meeting agendas and minutes and member meeting agendas and minutes, board member meetings and board meeting agendas and minutes and member meeting agendas and minutes? It's 4 separate freaking huge voluminous documents for the prior year available online. If not, please send them. So you're going to ask if they're available online, and for the link, please provide a copy or link to the following documents or let us know if any document is not available. Declaration of covenants and restrictions, decks, articles, bylaws, rules, all this stuff named in the paragraph 5 of the contract of the rider, the FAQs. And then you're going to ask them to please provide brief answers. Are there parking spaces, storage locations, or other amenities assigned to this unit? If so, what are the locations? They're going to say potentially, oh, it's going to be in our estoppel letter. Many estoppel letters don't have this stuff. Always better to ask up front. Why? If there's some confusion later, and I see this all the time, if there's some confusion later on dock spaces, storage location, parking spaces, at least you have the document where you asked and they answered, or you asked and they didn't answer. Very important for your file. I think we have one in the office right now where they want to rescind, reverse the transaction. Matthew's working on one where they want to reverse the deal because the dock space was inappropriately transferred prior to the sale.
So does it go untitled? Does parking space go untitled, Jim?
No,
It doesn't.
no. But the reality is the seller got a better offer for their property, so they're trying to use the improper dock sale as a way to vacate the sale and take the better price. All I'm saying is, as a prudent agent, get it on paper. Don't be the conduit of verbal information, be the conduit of written information. Are milestone inspections required for this property? If yes, the report was was the report completed? If yes, please provide a copy. Has the association turned over? That's a section on the new form and the form that was revised in January. Again, There's a difference between the milestone inspections and the SIRS. Is the SIRS study required for the property? If yes, is the study completed? And if yes, please provide a copy. Are there other associations governing this unit? If so, what are the fees? So in the new form, at the very top, if the property is part of a master or other homeowners association, seller shall complete Rider B homeowners association community disclosure for further information, including additional assessments and fees. If the property is more than one condominium association, seller shall complete a separate Rider A condominium rider for each condominium association. You could be doing this in one community in Palm Beach County, in one community in Palm Beach Gardens. You could be doing these forms, 3 forms for one property, a homeowners association and 2 condo association riders. Boom. You guys do not have an easy job. I wish this stuff was like selling Sunset, but it's not. I'm probably dating myself. Is that show even still on?
I think so.
There's
I don't watch it, but
there's probably some new trendy real estate show that I'm totally disconnected from, you guys. I'm sorry. Are there any violations of the condominium association rules or regulations against the unit? If so, yes. If yes, please briefly describe. Is the association involved in any current or pending litigation? Has the association voted to forego retrofitting its fire sprinkler system, handrails, or guardrails? It's in the rider. Are there any rental restrictions on new members? If yes, what are they? And then last but not least, the governance form. That is the form that I alluded to earlier, Shane. If you look through the governance form, I gave you the link. This is a document that all condominiums in Florida are bound by. There's a whole bunch of rules and then rules of the unit owners. There's stuff in here about unit owners have the right to, oh, under the unit owners have a right to.
Yep. Can you put that
Here it is.
copy and paste that actual link and put it in the chat, Jim, right now?
Yep, provide substantive written response to any inquiry submitted to the board for certified mail response requested within 30 days. Within 60 days, the board requests a legal opinion, or 10 days if receiving the division's advice. So within 30 days, wow, they have to get you this stuff. There may be a better rule that you can lean into. Yes, I will do that. Notice of annual meetings. I'd have to read this through again. I thought there was something with shorter time frames that gave you guys some tooth to go after the association to get documents under. I'll come up with the more
Somewhere
accurate.
there was something that said they had 5 days.
Yeah, I thought there was something in here that was shorter. I don't want to burn up too much time on the show. I've got you guys. It's 10:52. I'll put the link in the
Oh,
chat.
it's in the checklist. That's fine.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? I
checklist
shared the link to the checklist in the chat, so it's in there.
Yeah.
That good.
All right. In my effort to get you guys out of here on time, bonus topic, if you want us to control title for you, write us in paragraph 20. I'd be happy to close for you. Text me 24/7. I'm here around the clock. Everything you guys share with me, I use to create content. And if you have a question, I guarantee you there's 1,000 other agents in Palm Beach County that have the same question. Ryan put the outline in the chat. You're going to get it via email.
And the
Use
recording.
title advance as equity is getting tight. Use title advance. Oh, huge. I forgot to mention this. MV Realty liens, 15,000 properties in Florida. There is a recent, Ryan, help me fill in the blanks here. I didn't put it in the outline. There is a recent decision by the state's attorney general vacating is Elena on the chat from my office? I had her memorize this rule and create a little single sound bite for it. MV Realty liens. Does everybody know what I'm talking about?
No, I'll give people just a quick synopsis because it affected me on a deal and it almost didn't close because of it, and they had to pay 2 commissions. Basically, there's this real estate company that went out there and basically got listing agreements from sellers for $1,500 that were lived in like perpetuity, that they just gave them like $1,000 or $1,500, sometimes $750, that if they ever sold the property, that they would be the listing agent. Well, a lot of these people forgot about it. They were 5, 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago they
10
signed.
years ago.
10 years ago, and come they sell their property now, and all of a sudden it shows up on, as a lien on the property, and now you're the listing agent, and now they got to pay another 3% commission to MV Realty at closing on top of your listing agreement and the buyer's agent.
And
So
Ryan, practically speaking, what ends up happening at the closing table? Seller looks at the current agent and says, I'm not paying this and I'm not going to close. And so all the agents chip in to pay off MB Realty. It's disgusting.
Yep.
So here is the new rule. And Elena from our office gave me an abbreviated version. So if the MV listing agreement was signed before 7/23, so what's that? July 2023, then we can ignore it. And if it was signed after July 2023, then we need to get a release. So we have Tajay in our office bought a piece of property, and MV Realty signed the release and didn't get their commission. And then we have underwriting guidelines that if the agreement was signed before a certain date, then we can ignore it as a title company and not pay MV Realty. So the good news is,
Great.
1, MV Realty liens are discoverable in your title advance. 15,000 properties in Florida have MV Realty liens, but they will show up in your title advance. 2, if you do find an MV Realty lien under the most recent decision by the state's attorney general, we can ignore it or get a release over it. And the only reason we still need to get a release and not ignore it altogether is because they are appealing the decision. But in practically speaking, in the situations I'm aware of, MV Realty has issued the releases. All right, that's it, you guys.
Wow, Jim. Thank you so much for this. I also shared the link to Title Advance in the chat as well. Use that free service Jim provides. It can save a ton of headaches. If there isn't enough equity to get a closing, it's right there, where you can make sure that you're going to get paid if the deal's really tight. It's awesome.
All you got to do is go on there and punch in the address, and we're going to make a better system that's going to get you title advances quicker. They're not as quick as I'd like, but we're going to get them to you quicker. RealTrade, home of the double dip. Ryan knows the journey you guys are taking. He built a platform that doesn't fleece you guys and has the appropriate parties paying, the service vendors. In my opinion, this is the platform of the future.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, no, guys, it's free to sign up, and who knows, you could get a call, one day or DM through the app that you have a buyer interested in one of your listings. Of course, you can network with all the awesome service providers like Jim on the platform too. That's awesome.
James Brown Law. You guys should know the difference between eviction and ejectment and unlawful detainer. And I get calls from agents every day that don't know the difference. And I hear about attorneys trying to remove parties in possession and they don't know the difference. So if you're filing an eviction and it's not proper and it should be an ejectment, you can get them out cheaper and quicker and faster, but you got to have an attorney that knows the difference. And then if you guys need to reach me 24/7, go over here, newpathtitle.com, click on 24/7 attorney support. If you want to look at title to your property, you can click on order title products. You can click on title commitment. It's $175. You'll have our exact roadmap to closing, and at the closing, I'll credit you back the $175. So if you have a property that has title problems and you want to see exactly what the title agent's going to be looking at for closing, a title advance is good. It gets you in the ballpark, but it does miss stuff. A title commitment will give you everything, and I'll credit you back whatever you spend on your title commitment at closing. So if the agent spends $175 at the closing, I'll send the agent the $175. Invaluable. It's invaluable. And
That's
then
awesome.
we can also do muni searches and muni lien searches and things like that. And then you'll get credited back at closing by the seller or the buyer, whoever is paying for title. They're expensive, very expensive, but you will have the definitive statement on what encumbers your property. Everybody know the difference between the municipal records and the public record? Municipal records is where you're going to find code violations, open permits, things like that. Public record is where you're going to find deeds and mortgages and judgments and things like that. A municipal record will turn into a public record if it's a lien and a judge passes an order. So that tall grass is a municipal violation, but it's not a public record or a lien issue until it lingers for days. They've had a court hearing, and then the judge says it's now going to become a lien. Now that appears on title in the public record. Municipal records are handled between the parties and the contract. Title records are handled by the title agent and the closing. Just know the differences and know the availability of those tools. All right, without preaching too much more.
That's awesome, Jim. Thanks, Jim. You've shepherded us through here on this. Who knows? These condo things might change here in the next couple of weeks, but I'm excited. I'm actually headed to your office. You're doing a closing here for me today here at 11:30, so I'll see you shortly, Jim.
Awesome. All right, you guys have a great day. Text me for anything you need.
All right, thanks. Thanks, everybody. All right.